Hi, welcome to Society Secrets. This is Madame Maddox, and today my guest is Ron Griffin. And for those of you who follow my stories and my Instagram or my social media accounts, you would know him from A Life Altered, Memoirs of Ronald B. Griffin. However, that's not necessarily what we're talking about, but I am going to plug it just a little bit for you. If you wouldn't mind, give us just a quick summary of what A Life Altered is and who you are as a person before I get into today's episode is what men wish women knew. And he's going to give his perspective on this topic. But before that happens, I want people to just get a little background on you, a quick who are you? What do you do? A little bit just about the book and why somebody would want to buy your book.
I got you. Hi, everybody. Good to be here with you. Thank you for having me. My name is Ron Griffin. I am a program manager for the United States Space Force here at Patrick Space Force Base. And the unclassified version of what we do is we launch rockets. And I fucking love what I do.
That's pretty to the point. And
Just in a nugget without going into a half hour rant, which I could easily do.
true.
The book, in my opinion, the book is about resilience and hope and the ability to bounce back when life throws you a curveball that you weren't prepared for. I suffered a significant medical injury, and it's been a long journey, to be honest with you, trying to work my way back, get my life back. And this story, my book, my story, is about resilience and hope. And I hope that anybody that reads it can take that away and apply that to their situation.
We have modified the podcast to fit Ron's circumstances so that he can be comfortable. And with that said, thank you for your introduction. Thank you for telling us a little bit about yourself. And the book will be released and available for purchase. You can pre-order it now on maddoxpublishing.com. However, the book will be available for purchase on Amazon June 21st, which happens to be Father's Day. Main reason I chose that date specifically was because in A Life Altered, Ron does do quite a few tributes to his life growing up, and one of the people that he mentions quite a bit is his dad.
Absolutely.
We're diving deep into the minds of men and what do they wish women understood about them, and why is there a double standard that complicates relationships. So
What an easy topic.
right,
Wow.
right. So I think I don't remember how old I was, but I think it was Mel Gibson who was in a movie and it was like What Women Want, and he could read the minds of women. And I mean, theoretically, would this be
that would be a superhero gift there.
that would it's not realistic, obviously. And I know we discussed it just a little bit before we actually turned on the camera. What do you think one of the common misconceptions about men's emotions and vulnerabilities are?
Oh, easy one right out of the box.
Of course. I really
men's insecurities. I think probably one of the universal insecurities that men have, is my opinion, obviously, is they don't want to be perceived as weak or vulnerable, because that is an unattractive quality that women do not respond to.
Supposedly.
I think
want to know who they're asking, because definitely was not part of that.
maybe it's a self-inflicted injury that men have, but it's real.
Well, the actual question though was, what is the misconception about men's emotions and vulnerabilities?
misconceptions
Mm-hmm.
that we don't have emotions, that we're
Mm.
just machines, that we don't have insecurities. We do. That men have trained each other, for better or for worse, that as a man,
Mm.
no one gives a damn what you're going through.
Mm-hmm.
Shut up, man up, and tackle it and solve it. That's the mentality that a lot of us men have.
Yeah, and you see, I think they're doing a better job, especially there's a lot more conversation centered around it now. I think,
There is.
we talk more about mental health, and society is a little bit more self-aware of these kind of topics. I do think that they are trying to be a little bit more mindful as far as like what is being projected out into the media as far as movies go, and giving men a little bit more grace to be able to express their emotions. But I can specifically remember growing up, like, if you did anything that was perceived as feminine, it was like you're a pussy, essentially. It would be like,
You carried that label until you beat
yeah,
the shit out of the guy that called you that name.
yeah, but I mean, it was like show emotion, or even if it was like maybe you were somebody who preferred band over sports, or maybe you wanted to do ballet or gymnastics, or something that was considerably less,
Outside the box.
yes, outside the box. All of a sudden you're being labeled for having feminine qualities or expressing yourself in a way that was not traditionally masculine.
Sure.
And I think now we're giving a little bit more grace that masculinity can look different. I think another thing that we also discussed was the double standard of, many times I've had a lot of men say this to me. I've actually had this conversation with Ron a few times, and I was like, let's put it on camera. The conversation is that men do not get compliments, that they don't, many men feel that they
Fact.
don't get compliments. And this is something that I find really interesting, because I don't just compliment men, I compliment people. I see something or I notice something about you, whether it's not just aesthetics, but I do happen to like aesthetics. I like when people look nice and they've groomed themselves or they get a new haircut. That's usually the first thing I notice about somebody is their hair. Only, I think, partially because I was a hairdresser for so long, but I notice nuances too about people's emotions, and I can pick up when somebody's feeling a little down or blue. So it always surprises me when a man says women don't compliment men.
That is a rarity.
I find it interesting that the way that men see it is that it is not common for men to be complimented.
True. Men are more educated, or learned behavior is that they compliment women. Whether it's, from most men, those compliments are sincere. There are some jackasses that do it just to try and get laid, obviously. There are some that wolf call from across the street as you walk by.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the outliers. But generally, when a man gives a compliment, it is sincere. What women do not realize, in my opinion, is that men do not get compliments. If a man gets a compliment from a woman, you have no idea how long they hold on to that, because it is so rare.
So do you feel like it's aesthetics that, so if I were to say to you and you had not been given a compliment in a while, and I was just like, wow, I really love this shirt on you, that would be,
To a man, yeah, they would take that compliment and hold on to it. It's like, it was a new shirt. She noticed. Wow.
so is
That
it
never
just
happens to
aesthetics,
me.
or is it also like, hey, I noticed you look really happy today, what's going on in your life?
Even that, yes,
So
absolutely.
those are things.
That men would absolutely love that.
Do you feel that One thing that I happen to notice, and we talk a lot about this in some of my psychology classes, is they talk about how initially we were designed to live in tribes or communities of like 100 to 200 people. And so now when you think about it, look at just in your neighborhood, how many people live in that neighborhood. Even if you're living in an apartment setting, there, it very much surpasses that amount. And they call it the bystander effect, right? Where you can notice things, but a lot of people don't say anything anymore. So even if you're, it could be a crime, it could be, name it, you'll have a bunch of people take out their phones, but they won't actually act on anything.
Yeah.
And that's because they say, like, empathetically, we don't have the capacity within it. It has not just to do with our brains, but our genetic makeup, the way that we are designed as people, is not to be able to have that, the capacity to care for that amount of people. We were meant to be in smaller groups.
Fair.
Do you think what you just said, it was fair, but I also feel that we are just very self-absorbed as a society.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and I can even put myself in that category. Like, so anybody who's putting themselves on camera, you're looking for following, you're looking for people to
Clicks, likes.
yeah. And so depending on the motives can be different, but for the most part, most people are very hyper focused on themselves. And so they're looking at their perspective and from their angle, and they're not really considering, oh, well, this felt good to receive a compliment, and maybe it would feel just as good to give.
If I gave that to someone else.
Right. Do you feel that that's an accurate depiction of today's society? Not necessarily just women, but also just as a whole, that people are just too focused on what's going on specifically with them.
Oh, absolutely. I would agree with that.
I think that things have changed dramatically. I think people do not care as much. I feel like there was a time in my life that I saw people care more actively about others. And I do feel like we've kind of taken a step back, but I do, it's not just women not giving men compliment. I think as a whole, as a society, we've gotten far away from really caring about each other. But I do think there is a double standard also. I'm not disagreeing with where we started this conversation, but I do think there is a double standard where women have this expectation that men should cater to them, essentially.
I think that you put that very well. There is that expectation.
Yeah. And so, what would you say about expectation then?
I think it's learned behavior. Women have learned that if they do get compliments, that I'm not saying this is all women. I'm not saying this is all the time, but they can leverage that into something else.
Meaning?
Meaning stronger relationship. Maybe gifts, maybe attention, maybe dates to go dancing or whatever. If they receive compliments from men that they consider attractive, then those other things can follow.
Yeah, and I think, and this is just my own perspective, the way that I happen to just, it's not just about relationships. I would say it is about relationships, but it's not just about uh, romantic relationships, I
Yeah.
should say. It's about uh, professional, friendships, romantic. I tend to look at those relationships as balance. You know, I think that if we all, the expectation of, I like this, I try to be a good friend. So if I need a friend and I call them and I just need someone to vent to, well, then when they call me and need someone to vent,
It's right back to them.
yes. So being, if somebody's available to you, then make sure that when they need you, that you're available to them. And I think that goes in all relationships that you encounter, is how can you be a reciprocate and have that same balance so that you are not being just on the receiving end. But you were saying that's kind of a rarity.
What you described as yourself and the way that you view that, I don't think is a common trait among women. Just saying in general,
Okay.
they are they are trained by society and relationships to expect a certain level of compliments, that are sincere, that are not,
Mm-hmm.
tied to anything, and they value those things. It makes them feel better. It makes them more positive about their lives and their relationships. And what I'm saying is that men do not receive that kind of positive input from women as often. And I think that when they do get that kind of positive reaction or compliment or whatever you want to call it from a woman, it makes a tremendous amount of um, difference in the way that man feels. You would not believe how rare it is for a man to get a compliment from a woman, and what it means to that man
Mm.
is a hell of a lot more than you know.
Another key point that you had made is that women also compliment each other.
Oh, absolutely.
So, and I do know this, like, um, girlfriends and just randomly out and about, you will see women, go into the restroom even and washing their hands, be like, "Oh, I really like your shoes," or "I really like
Shoes or
this
your
or that."
bag or your earrings or
So we're
whatever.
hearing positive
Yeah.
affirmations a lot, whereas it's less likely that men are having those interactions in the bathroom. They're not saying, "Hey, man, I really like the way those
Where'd you get those
jeans
boots? Yeah.
or boots or whatever." You on your Instagram acknowledge something that's really important in men's psychology, being that men are at a much higher risk for depression and suicide rates.
That is
And
true. In the the military bases that I have served on, it's very it is a widespread problem that is trying to be combated, and they're trying to help people. It's a committed program, but in the military, especially, you have people that a lot of times are serving far from home for extended periods of time, no contact basically with their family or the people that care about them, and it does have an effect.
mm-hmm.
And sometimes that can lead to depression, and sometimes that can lead even to suicide. The military calls it 23 a day
Mm-hmm.
because there are 23 military personnel that commit suicide daily.
So, would you say that a man would also appreciate, even if they don't respond in the time frame that you? So, understand this too, as a society, and it's something that I've been really working on myself over the last year. Number one is removing the expectation of people to do certain things, because as a society, as a society, it's
You can do it.
twice, as a society, we have trained ourselves into the belief system of instant gratification. And there was a time, there really was, where, it you had to be patient. You might give a girl your number or a guy your number, and 2 weeks would go by before you would finally get that phone call. And we trip out if you send a text message and that person doesn't respond in an hour and they've quote unquote read it. Meaning, like, so these phones have the advancement on them where somebody can see that the text message has been quote unquote read. But I can tell you that there are a lot of times I notice the message, and really I just open my screen and I read the first sentence. I don't read the whole
Oh, Jim
thing.
sent me this. I'll read it in a second.
Yeah, so I debate on how the importance
Yeah.
of that text message. And yeah, of course, it means also it depends on certain people. the importance of that person, meaning my son, I'm going to read his text message top to bottom.
Boom.
Only because one, I'm his mother, and two, he would rank high on the importance level for me. But if it's involving what I'm doing on Saturday, or needing something that isn't relevant to what needs priority for that day, just because it says that I read it does not mean that it was the priority for the day and the things that I needed to get done. And so I think that we need to get out of the mindset that if somebody is not responding to us right away, that also means that they are not interested in what we have to say, or that they don't appreciate when we reach out. We're just like, oh, they ghosted me. But people also handle situations differently, depending on what they're going through.
Absolutely.
If there's somebody in your life and you recognize that they're going through a difficult time, don't not send the hey, how are you doing? Are you okay? And just because they don't answer within, the day or 2 days does not mean that they're not like regarding you as unimportant or not valuing that you're reaching out. It's just some people handle situations different, but it's also probably helpful for those people who are in difficult times or having mental challenges to know that somebody is there if they need them.
I'll piggyback this. There are some people, and oftentimes I find myself in this group, that will go dark when they're going through something. And they're trying to figure it out on their own. They're trying to solve their own problem without burdening other people. That is a thought process that is constantly on my mind, especially I suffered an injury and it's still ongoing. When I'm going through something, I do go dark. I have to process in my own mind, how am I going to handle this? How am I going to respond? How am I going to get back up? And I don't want to be a burden on other people while I'm going through that. So a lot of times I do not immediately respond to texts for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I've come to find out I'm not alone in that. So that's
Yeah.
just the way that I'm wired. It's not that I'm trying to disrespect anyone. It's not that I'm trying to avoid anyone. It's just I'm trying to figure shit out.
Mm-hmm. One of the main takeaways is that knowing that if somebody is checking in on you and saying, hey, how are you doing? Is everything okay? Or expressing that they're there if you need them, it is appreciated. And
Oh, absolutely.
that it's good to have that knowledge and not to just not be that way if you see somebody who's struggling.
Absolutely. It is in my experience, those texts and those reach outs are appreciated, but that person is not in a space where they are willing or able to carry on a conversation at that point. It's like, I've still got to figure this shit out. This is just the way that I'm wired. I'm not changing. This is who I am.
Mm-hmm. That's very fair. Going back to the male and female. No, seriously, what's another thing that you wish that more women understood about men
Wow.
and the way that they're wired?
And the way that they're wired. Where to start?
I know. Well, I said before that I think we forget that we are designed differently for a very specific reason.
Absolutely.
We forget there is a psychological difference between men and women, and for very specific reasons.
Oh, yeah.
We are designed differently. Men are very visual creatures, but initially, the whole purpose was, hunt, gather, provide. Women, maternal, nurture. Those are so more on the emotional aspect, and we forget that men are very visual.
Yep.
And they process things. Typically, it's what did you tell me earlier?
Men want to solve problems. They want to resolve issues, but they are not able to I know this is going to sound bad. They're not able to read a woman's mind and know what she needs from her body language, from her change of mood, whatever, her nonverbal hints. He is not able to understand what she needs unless she says it, and says it in a way that is, you know, I would really like it if you would help me with dot. Men, if they understand what the issue is, they will do everything that they can to resolve it, to solve it, and
make it go away.
it go away. But we are terrible at taking nonverbal hints, things that women think should make it very, very clear. This is why I'm upset with you, but I shouldn't have to say it. You should already know. Men are terrible at that, and it drives us insane.
If you're in a relationship and there's somebody who is looking for their person to know what they're thinking at all times, and
that's a lot of pressure on a dude.
Right.
I'm going to tell you that
that's
right
when
now.
That's when the trip to the store, and then you never see them again.
I'm going out for cigarettes, baby.
I'll be back.
I'll be back in 23 years. I think we're on to something here. It's not that we don't care about what you're feeling, what you're going through, but we're absolutely horrible at taking nonverbal hints as to knowing what you need, and women having the expectation that I've given him every indication in the world.
He should know
that something's wrong, and this is it, and this is what he should do.
He did this, and he should know that this upsets me.
Exactly.
Because
men's stance is, please just say it. Don't start an argument. Don't yell it. Don't scream it. Don't say this is something that happened 3 weeks ago of Tuesday, and you should have known, by the change in my mood, that this was the issue. We have no clue.
Ooh.
We really don't.
Yeah.
Men are not complicated animals. We're pretty damn simple.
If you overcomplicate it, that there's a strong likeliness that you'll lose that person's interest. If you create, when a man is working and they're providing and they're doing the things that in their mind are their, so they're being the provider and
their responsibilities,
and they're doing their responsibilities, but if they come home and it's chaos.
Men, in my experience, men want to solve problems. They want to be there for you, and they want to provide what you need to be happy with him. Men, when they get home and there is, as you say, chaos or a fight awaiting as soon as he opens the door, it defeats the very purpose of that man coming home. He is coming home, he hopes, to a tiny bit of peace, a tiny bit of renewal, to be with the person that he's...
So it's not always about a fresh cooked meal.
No, it's not.
On the table, ready to go. It's about, when I walk through the door, am I going to get peace?
Am I going to get peace of mind when I walk in my home to the person that's important to me? Or is it going to be drama? Is it going to be, you should have known why I was upset?
Why did you leave socks all over the bedroom floor?
Yeah, that's
I've heard that for some reason. This is a conversation, I swear, and it's funny to me because I'm like, if that's the biggest problem you've got,
yeah, we can solve that real easy. Just say that, and don't be angry for 2 or 3 weeks without saying anything.
And we forget that people are creatures of habit too. So if this person was doing something before they met you, it's
maybe they won't change.
Well,
maybe they will.
That's the thing, is that...
But just don't bring it up in an argument, in an argumentative, confrontational style, because that absolutely turns a man off. And it makes him almost anti in the other direction. It's like, well, fuck this.
Yeah,
I'm going to do what I'm going to do.
We see this all the time, and there's plenty of reels out there. There's plenty of podcasts that discuss this. There's plenty of movies that talk about it. But I say, even as somebody who regularly assists couples specifically in their relationships. I personally see this a lot, and it's getting into a relationship with somebody and you can see, okay, let's say they had an apartment and you have your own space, and you go into their space and you can see how they live.
Yeah.
And then you get into a relationship with somebody and you expect that they are going to be a different version of them. You already have seen a
You've
lot
seen
of,
the preview.
you've seen the preview, and it's this expectation that I can change. I can
Oh,
change or fix this person to be the person that I, or mold them into a version of, so they see what I call potential. We women say this a lot. I see potential, or I like the potential. There's a fantasy in your head that I can make this person what I want them to be, versus I accept this person for what I see. And so then you end up with this situation where you're creating chaos because somebody is not meeting your expectation.
to
They want to
meet your
come
goal. Yeah.
home to peace. They just want to come home at the end of the day, and they want to walk through the door and either, I see this a lot too, is giving the person space to breathe for a minute. Let them get in the door, put their feet up, whatever, and relax before you start addressing, even if it is fixable issues, things that you want them to do or solve, give them a moment, but it's the expectation of, I like the potential of this person that I have created in my head, versus I accept the person that I see, and I like, we can work together and compromise, but
That's a whole lot different than I can change you.
and that's what we see a lot, is it's that we are in love with the idea of who that person is, versus actually accepting what I see, and is it something that will fall in line with something I am able to deal with. Because something as simple as this is an example of an actual fight that I was like, that's the fight, that's what's bothering you. And it was that this person, when they would get into bed at night, would take their socks off, leave their dirty socks all over the bedroom floor, but never pick them up. And so,
Bastard.
yes. And so her retaliation after this particular situation was then making all of their socks into basically cutting the toes off, and so they had no socks.
Really?
Yes. And I'm like, well,
Wow.
what did that accomplish?
I was just going to say, and that worked out. It solved everything, right?
Right. So it's like, obviously this very petty as well, but it's we would call that passive aggressive behavior.
Oh, yes.
Is, well, I've said to him that this bothers me a lot, but
So therefore I'm
how,
justified.
But how then? It goes back to what you were talking about. How did you talk to them about it? Were you yelling at them? Were you screaming at them? How was the conversation had? Was it done calmly, or were you in their face and creating a big ordeal? Because now most people, I don't know, when there's chaos, I shut down. I'm not listening to you anymore.
Yeah.
So
that's a common reaction. It's like, I'm not dealing with this.
I think that that's another thing, is that women just have this immediate expectation of what they want from another person, but it's all about the approach. It's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Yeah.
And when are you saying it?
And the importance of saying it in the right tone, let's say,
Sure.
at the right time,
right?
Gently, suggestive. Can you, would you please? I would appreciate if you would, rather than getting the cold shoulder for 3 weeks.
Aggression.
Because that person should have known by my nonverbal communication, my hints, that man should have known what he did wrong, how he should have addressed it, and he hasn't, and therefore, I'm going to do this, and elevate it a little bit more. Men feel so trapped when they get into that cycle. It's like, how the heck should I have known what you were thinking? Why didn't you just say it and avoid all this? Now, this is just my 2 cents. This is just my opinion, but that doesn't seem productive.
I don't see this as much with men as I do with women. I don't hear about men so much destroying women's property when they're upset. I have heard multiple stories of women destroying men's property as a
Fairly common.
yes, as a
Really?
retaliation. It is. I've heard many stories throughout my life of retaliation against a man for not doing or accomplishing something that they wanted them to do, or them not being the person that they saw the potential in. It really fantasized, recreated a human that was not there to begin with, and then as retaliation, it's breaking or destroying things that don't belong.
Something that they valued.
Yes, as a way to make a point. And
Wow.
yeah, that to me, I agree. I've never been that person. I do think that that is a main problem in today's society, but just in general, it's the there's these misconceptions that happen all the time, but it's something that we need to be, as people, just more self-aware of our own behaviors. When you are meeting somebody and you're getting into a relationship, if you're already starting to fantasize about ways that you could make this person do XYZ,
Change this person.
yes, then clearly you are in a fantasy. That isn't what you really want. You want a different version of the person that is in front of you. Just
So you're saying that they're settling to this individual, maybe over someone that they wanted, and saying, I can make this one better.
or fantasize, they're creating a fantasized version of that person
Okay.
versus it may be like, yes, because obviously in the way that people work is that there's an initial attraction somehow, right?
Yeah.
So I'm seeing something and something about you is attractive. But then do are we taking the time to get to actually know this person and see if that's why I like to take my time. I want to get to know people. I don't just jump into bed with people. I'm not just out there whimsically throwing myself around. And a lot of it is because are you compatible? Do you actually meet the qualities that meet? Is it the qualities that I'm looking for, the standards that I have for myself? Or do we have the same values, core beliefs? Those are things that we just kind of today we're just moving through people and then surprised when they don't
When it's a
meet.
conflict.
Yes, when there's a conflict, when probably when you met that person it was right in front of your face.
Ignored red flag. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And
Okay.
so I think not even it doesn't have to be a red flag. It just I always say that just because somebody has a quality that doesn't meet your standards does not mean that they're bad people. They just might not be for you. Paying attention
Yep.
to your standards and keeping your core belief systems, and if you have to lower those things, it's probably a sign right there. It's if you're having to, I wouldn't say settle, but if you're having to lower to them versus them rise to you, then maybe they're not for you.
Yep.
If you have to change anything about what is really important to you, then they're probably not for you. But I would say that is a little bit off topic, but also important. Is like paying attention to are we fantasizing about something that isn't really there to begin with? Is it just what we want versus what it is? What is another thing that you think women overlook about men?
Sometimes women overlook the sincerity of a man.
Hmm. They assume there's hidden agenda.
Yep. Um, they're they will overlook the loyalty of a
Mm,
man, the goodness in his heart.
mm,
Maybe this man is not 6'3",
mm-hmm.
26 years old, a ripped specimen of a man
I don't know. I
that
like dad bod.
that makes a half a mil a year. If I have these things that come across my feed in my
We
Instagram
all do.
sometimes, and they have these roundtable discussions about what is your mate that you're looking for. Well, he's got to be over 6 feet tall. He's
Mm-hmm.
got to be in excellent shape. He
Mm-hmm.
has to be, ripped. He has to make at least a half a million a year, and they go, through all their criteria. And the person at the head of the table was like, "Okay, I understand you're looking for like a 1% man, a 0.0001% man.
And but
There's
then
only a few of
do
them."
they hold themselves to the same standard?
And that's the follow-up question. You're looking for this person who is, in your view, the absolute pinnacle. What do you bring to the table?
Mm-hmm.
And often the shock on the person's face is like, well, I bring me. If he is that high on the pedestal guy, why would he choose you? And it's like, just stunned. It's like, well, because I'm me. It's
And
not
that
it's not that there's an expectation that I bring anything to the table. Men do like for women to bring something to the table.
absolutely.
And oftentimes, at least part of that is to be his peace.
Mm-hmm.
All these other things, all of those things, let's say all those other criteria are met. One thing that a man does want in his
Mm-hmm.
partner is to be his peace.
Mm-hmm.
He battles in the outside world
Mm-hmm.
all day, every day. Sometimes when they are not 100%, when they are not, feeling it, so to speak, but they
Mm-hmm.
do it anyway. And the one thing that they want at the end of the day is to come home and spend some time with the person that they care about and
Mm-hmm.
have just a tiny bit of peace.
Mm-hmm. And I do. I've seen some of these roundtable discussions
You know what I'm
myself.
talking about.
I do. Um, we won't call out these young ladies.
No, I'm just saying.
But one of the things that I will say is that as a whole, back to it, it's not. This is our perspectives. First of all, you can agree to disagree, and I'd love to hear those comments in the comment section below. But
And
also,
I do not
to,
claim to be an expert. Let me throw that out as well.
not an expert, but I do live in the world, and I see the world in so many different aspects at this point. And um, I will say that beauty, I have known many what we would call ideally beautiful people, 10 on the Richter scale. But it can't be all that you have to offer. My grandmother used to say uh, that beauty, like most things, beauty fades. And truthfully, what you perceive as beautiful, typically it varies from eye to eye. So just because you may be the idea or the standard of beauty, a lot of times if you don't have more to offer than just a physical aspect, you're actually lacking in so many ways. There's
If
so
you're an argumentative, combative person underneath that,
mm-hmm.
that is a huge minus.
Yeah, so you can take a beautiful picture and put out a good video, but at the end of the day, if you cannot hold a conversation and you are unable to uh, offer more to the world than just a physical, I am here, and you enter the room,
Love me.
bow to me, it's not enough, and it will not get you far. It just won't. And it's unfortunate but true, but we all get old. Most, not all, we know this true. Many of us don't make it
I'm
that
29
far.
and holding.
Yeah, many of us don't make it that far, but once we start to age, obviously the standard of beauty
it
does,
changes.
it changes. And so if you're just relying on what you look like today, that's not going to be enough, because eventually you too will have to.
What's inside you will become more important
Yes.
as you age.
And so I think focusing on how can I be the peace to someone, not and be peace to yourself.
And reverse, back and
Yeah,
forth.
yeah. I think one of the greatest um, transformations of my life in the last few years is that I've learned how to be peaceful to myself and be at peace by myself, with myself, in my own company, And
that is rare. Not a lot of people enjoy just their own company.
I think that that speaks volumes, though, to what we were talking about, growth. You know,
Absolutely.
the real key to knowing if you can be in a relationship with someone else is, do you like your own company? So until I feel that I feel for myself, coming from a woman's perspective, when I learned how to be happy in my own space and my own, truly enjoy being alone with myself. Well, I lied. My dog is usually there with me. But I do enjoy my own company, and I don't feel that I need to be out and around and surrounded by other people. And I don't have this urge to, I'm not a partier. I do like social things, but I don't want social activity all the time. I want peace. I want to be doing things that keep me feeling that way, peaceful and at ease. And that, if you can do that for yourself, then you absolutely can do that for somebody else. Agree?
Agreed. Omnes aevele isum ius passus de animus.
You're going to have to say that louder, prouder, and a little clearer.
Omnes aevele isum ius passus de animus.
Mm.
All I want is my peace of mind.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, two different perspectives. We have a very intelligent, very handsome man, and then
You're very generous. Thank you.
I do feel that way. I was gonna say something and then I changed my mind.
My
totally.
goodness.
Yeah.
I'm blushing.
You should be. So you have an attractive man's perspective, and then you have my perspective. I am a woman. I identify as a woman. Was born as a woman. Therefore, I feel like I can say what I want to say about women. We could do a little bit better as a society as a whole at being a little more self-aware, and not being as selfish, and recognizing when maybe somebody needs some positivity and needs,
And that can really be as simple as, "Are you okay? You look a little stressed.
mm-hmm,
What's going on?"
eye contact.
Boom.
And just
That goes a long way.
showing some empathy and compassion to those around us, and not just looking for the receiving end, but also being somebody who can be the giving.
I'm telling you right now, that is something that men do not get very often.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying this. Think about it. Think about the men in your life. Ask them, when is the last time they got a compliment or someone who genuinely just checked on them? You'll be surprised.
And if I can help lift somebody with something even as simple as telling them that they look nice today, or asking if they're okay, these are very simple gestures.
Those go a long, long way. Be kind,
Mm-hmm.
because every person that you meet is going through a battle that you know nothing about.
Mm-hmm. I will leave it right there, actually. Thank you, Ron, for being part of this and doing the deep dive with me and talking about somewhat controversial subjects. Again, these are just our opinions. Neither one of us are experts. And again, today was what men wish women knew. And women, if you're listening, yes, take the compliment, but don't be afraid to give the compliment. As Society Secrets, be sure to like, share, subscribe, add some comments below, and Ron's book, June 21st, A Life Altered, Memoirs of Ronald B. Griffin.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me.